Hey everyone, it's LS, and this is going to be the patch 11.1 notes rundown. This is also going to be, I believe, the last patch notes that are going to be on this channel. All the future patch notes are going to be edited and highlighted and whatnot and moved over to T1's official YouTube channel. So this is going to be, I think, the last one here on this channel. But anyways, we're going to get into it. Season 11 is upon us. And to my knowledge, there's actually not that many changes. We're just going to jump right in. As you can see, a lot of the buffs and nerfs don't really seem to be on any super insane champions. It actually seems like Ivern was removed from the nerf list, which is very surprising. Yone, Yasuo are going to be getting updated. I am very surprised with what's happening right now. Champions, Fiddlesticks, W cooldown increase. Fiddlesticks has been reaping too many rewards in the new jungle. W, bountiful harvest, 9 to 7 seconds to 10 to 8 seconds. So this is interesting because I don't know what Fiddlesticks actually gets for his mythic item. I know that pro players are pretty much divided. Been talking with a lot of them, and generally, the consensus is that Fiddlesticks is still good, just no one takes the time to learn him or actually play him, so I don't totally know where this is coming in or why this is the angle that they're approaching with, but nonetheless, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't think this is hitting Fiddle. This is actually probably hitting Tank Fiddle more than it's hitting any sort of AP variant of him, because the AP variant of him isn't going to be as reliant on the W as obviously Tank Fiddle or Sustain Fiddle would end up being, which is still a variation that I believe exists. Gnar. So this one's interesting. Mega Gnar keeps getting buffed, but they're not buffing Mini Gnar because Mini Gnar, I believe, is the version of Gnar that is considered to be able to be used by pro players and high MMR players to a toxic or unhealthy level. And so the problem with Gnar is that they keep buffing Mega Gnar as a means of trying to give some value to the champion that is able to be utilized by pretty much everyone, where the consensus is that if you end up trying to buff Mini Gnar, then, well, you're only going to get usage out of it by a very small amount of the player base. Mega Gnar, Q damage base and slow increase. Mini Gnar E attack speed duration increase. Mega Gnar E range increase. So Boulder Toss damage is actually up by a pretty sizable amount. This is actually really nice for his all-in when he ends up going Mega. The slow doesn't really matter. This just feels really luxurious because generally when you're going in on Mega Gnar, one of the Boulder Toss slow doesn't really matter because you're chaining together a lot of CC. They should actually be stunned or pinned against a wall or something like that if you're doing everything right. I guess this matters if you're doing it in the middle of a lane and you're just throwing someone around and then trying to slow them. I guess in that regard it can actually be good. Crunch range is up by 75, and Hop attack speed duration 4 to 6 seconds. That's also big as well for Mega Gnar. These aren't the kind of changes that are gating Gnar from being competitively viable. He also has other problems, which is that he just doesn't really have a proper rune. And so Gnar, again, having other issues, these are very nice and welcome, but it's not going to magically make him become a super viable champion. Karma, E-Shield strength increased late, E-Inspire 60 to 200 plus 50% ability power to 80 to 240 plus 50% ability power. So I was actually on Reddit, and I was reading some of the comments in regards to some of the changes that were supposed to be coming out in Season 11.1 patch, and Karma actually was not getting the attention that I think that it should be getting. And I say this because the base shield going up means that if Karma's itemizing something like Redemption and Mikhail's, these are both items that have insane amplified healing on their passive. But then in addition to that, they don't really have any AP. It doesn't really matter about AP. These are just really powerful utility items. The fact that the base shield is going up means that all of the supportive items, like Overflowing and Ardent Sensor and Redemption, Mikhail's, these items, it doesn't give you a lot of ability power at the end of the day, but they come with that passive that increases heals and shields. So the fact that Karma is just getting a flat 40 on her max rank E-Inspire while being able to build these items, and don't forget that Karma is one of the champions that can actually utilize the AoE passive on Ardent Sensor or the Staff, where she can RE and give it to multiple people at once, much like Soraka being able to press R and just giving it to multiple targets at once. Karma, while she doesn't come with a lot of ability power, it means that she doesn't really care as long as her base numbers are really high. So I think the Karma buff is actually really big, and it could push Karma back into being mid or top. But supportive Karma with Mikhail's, with Redemption, with those supportive items, I think is going to be much, much, much better now, especially with Moonstone and whatnot. So very, very good. Master Yi Q cooldown increased later. Q Alpha Strike 18 to 14 or 16 to 14 seconds to 18 to 16 seconds. Not really sure what this changes. Yi's in one of those weird spots where he consistently gets hit, but it's not totally made clear as to why he's always getting hit. Master Yi, obviously, the reason given is he's too average or he's too powerful in average play, so we're bumping down the amount of time he's vulnerable in team fights. So I'm always of the opinion that if Riot tries to go for a balance change like this, rather than just saying that he's too strong at average or low MMR play, they should shift the balance into something that allows high MMR players to still utilize some sort of power. I don't know how you would actually do that on Yi. I know that my suggestion with doing it on a Mumu was to take the damage out of his E or out of his W and shift it into hitting his Q. Things of that nature would make it so that he's not just outright nerfed because he's problematic at what is deemed a lower MMR bracket. Pantheon, base health regen decrease, W empowered AD scaling decrease. Simple adjustment is Pantheon's just a tad too strong across the board. Health regen 10 to 9, W shield vault 135 to 165, empowered AD scaling to 120 to 165. This doesn't touch on what is making Pantheon problematic at all. This actually totally whiffs the mark, and historically, whenever Riot whiffs the mark with what makes a champion strong, they're just going to continue to be picked, regardless. It's obviously his oppressiveness inside of the laning phase, mostly with his Q damage and his wave clear, his ability to just get ahead in the lane and then just pile drive his opponent, and there's no real response that they can do anything. Obviously, the health regen going down by 1 and the shield vault being changed doesn't touch on any of that. Qiyana, base health regen and attack damage increase base stats 8.5 plus 0.65 per level to 9 plus 0.9 per level, attack damage 64 to 66. Qiyana's one of those champions where it's really problematic, is weak for all but most skilled players, and the reason for this is because she's balanced around her ability to roam. She's a champion that has the ability to function off of very low economy because she only typically buys endless amounts of serrated dirks, and that's all that she needs, which means that her recalls are always centered around 350 gold on the longsword. Because of this, she's able to just roam, and as long as she gets a kill, she's guaranteed to get an item. Because she has such oppressiveness without actually a reliance on high amount of base levels, she's allowed to get zoned out of EXP and fall behind inside of the laning phase, and the proper punish to her doesn't really exist inside of solo queue because it's surrounded by good lane manipulation by the mid laner and then good responsiveness by the side laners to not die to any sort of roams. Qiyana's obviously a balancing nightmare that's probably going to end up having to get reworked at some point in time because there's just no way to balance a kit that is entirely balanced around the champion's ability to roam and punish bad players. Ryze. Q cost now scales. This is actually an interesting change to him. Q overload 40 mana to 40 to 32 mana. This obviously helps inside of the laning phase. It's a very small amount of mana, but when you consider the amount that Ryze utilizes his Q in lane, he's probably getting 1 or 2 free Q casts, I guess, over the course of a laning phase. Obviously, in mid game and late game, this doesn't really do anything, so this just sort of feels like a placebo buff. Xayah, E cooldown and cost decreased. E Blade Caller, 12 to 8 seconds to 10 to 8 seconds, so even at max rank, it's still pretty much the same. Getting the 2 seconds shaved off it at the beginning, though, is very valuable, and the cost going down by 10 mana is pretty much luxurious, doesn't really do anything. Xayah is having a really hard time right now, but it's mostly because the meta isn't centered around her ultimate being a really key spell, and giving her a lot of power, because there's not a lot of whole stuff for her to fade right now. I know that a lot of people will complain about crit AD carries or just AD carries in general, but the reality is that AD carries items are the best in the game right now, as weird as it sounds, and maybe I'll make a different video on why that is, but obviously I know that that is met with a lot of disgust, or that statement is met with a lot of resistance, and people don't understand why I'm saying that, and I think that it's entirely for a different video, but obviously the recipe components for all of the AD carry items, especially Crit Marksman, and most notably the Zeal item, is really, really, really powerful, and it curves the best compared to basically all other classes. Right now in solo queue, the game is very chaotic. A lot of champions are accelerating really quickly, and duo bot laners get less experience, and they typically get less gold than the mid laners, top laners, and junglers that are constantly fighting all around the map. Even if the marksman player is getting fed, he's probably going up against fed mages, fed tanks, and fed junglers that aren't supposed to be as fed as they are. And due to item inflation, level inflation, and all these other things, what ends up happening is AD carry players that don't possess the ability of professional or very very high level marksman players can't actually keep up with the oppressiveness of those items or those levels or the base scaling on opposing champions and whatnot, and it might feel like the marksman class is actually really weak. But the first core item for basically all of the classes, Marksman pretty much has the best, with Gale Force and Immortal Shield Bow and Kraken Slayer is really hard to argue with. Mage items are all really, really expensive. They don't give as much value as they once did. A lot of champions don't have as much harmony with the items as they once did, and the only real argument there is on Sunfire Cape, where Sunfire Cape, as an interesting item, has now granted tank users who previously were really hard to come by CDR, is now able to get CDR, and so with their insane utility, combined with the fact that they're able to deal damage and now make use of their utility and have resistances and have HP, is what's making Sunfire Cape users seem so strong. But obviously, this is a video for a different time. A little bit of a spiel there, but, we had to get into that one. Yasuo, base AD growth decreased, passive bonus crit strike chance increased, excess crit strike to AD conversion decreased. Okay, so base stat AD growth down by 1. Wow, that's actually really big. He loses 18 AD. That is very big. A passive Way of the Wanderer, intent bonus, crit strike chance 100 150%, intent and excess AD conversion. So it looks like, they both suffer the same problems here. Yone and Yasuo both being treated as dittos like they always do. This is totally fine. They're still both going to be really good. Items: Archangels Staff, build path, Tear the Goddess Amplifying Tome, Nidalee Large Rod plus 950 gold. And Nidalee Large Rod is what makes this item really awkward, because you're not building this item first. You're building it typically second, or you're ending up completing it third. So Nidalee Large Rod is actually a really big pain in the inventory, and it just doesn't feel that good to have sitting around because it's so expensive. It would feel a lot better if the recipe combined cost was actually probably higher, and rather than a Nidalee Large Rod, it was a Blasting Wand. Ability power 60 to 65. This applies to Saros Embrace as well. All AP percentage from mana is actually down, though. So even though it went up in ability power, the AP for mana has gone down, so I don't understand. You probably have to check out Freak's Rundown to get a better idea of what's going on there. Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Lucidity has been weaker in preseason compared to other options, looking to bump it up a bit. This is a very interesting change. So there's a lot of champions that actually don't get the ability to get a ability haste that easily, and for those champions, a change like this is actually going to be really powerful for them, because Ionian Boots, I actually think, and I mean, it's just a hypothesis right now, I haven't dove into it deep enough, I haven't done enough things on it yet, but I actually think that Ionian Boots are probably oftentimes almost always better than Sorkpen Boots on mages. I remember doing one of the math things a couple of months ago during Worlds between Ionian Boots versus just going Sorkpen Boots on a lot of different champions. One of the interesting things that I found was that Ionian Boots was actually chasing after Sorkpen Boots in realistic or practical combo scenarios pretty closely by a very, very small damage percent on pretty powerful champions, even the likes of Syndra and whatnot. So if that was the case back then, I imagine that it's probably a lot more similar than it is, or it's probably a lot closer of a race now than it was before, and it's something that I think I have to look into, but I don't think these boots should be slept on at all. Manamune. Cost is going to be going up by 300. I think this is very good. All AD percentage from mana 2 to 2.5%. I think that's very good as well. And yeah, I think this is totally fine. Getting more value for only 300 more gold, I think is totally fine for a quest item, because people are not in a rush to do anything there. Shock AD percentage 2.5%. This might come as a shock. Shock is no longer limited to physical damage spells, so they undid that. I still don't think the champions that used to build it are going to build it anymore, but I could be totally wrong on that. Runaan's Hurricane. This is very big because Mr. Years might come back. Runaan's Hurricane, attack damage removed. Wind Bolt Fury damage, 40% total AD. Used to be 40 to 70% total AD. And now the build path, Dagger Zeal, Dagger plus 850 gold. Very good build path. Total gold cost 2,500 gold. Really, really, really big for 80k. Really big for Aphelios, most notably insane synergy with Ravenous Hydra on this item. Aphelios probably might even be able to go into other lanes. The cost of this item is just so cheap, it's so insane. could maybe end up having something like top Aphelios. Obviously, Aphelios down in the bot lane doesn't really need any sort of an introduction. This is another really big change to even a champion like Jinx and whatnot. This is just overall an insanely powerful change for certain crit users, and most notably Aphelios, so keep him on the radar. Shurelya's Battle Song, movement speed 60%, doesn't really matter, it's just a bad mythic. Duskblade of Drakthar, 100 Night Stalker damage to 65 plus 25% bonus AD, so they're nerfing the active of it, but the base AD is going up by 60. Drakthar Shadow Cleaver Ornn upgraded is 70 to 75. Prowler's Claw is also down by 35 plus 5% bonus AD. Ability Haste is up by 10, and obviously the Ornn items are increased. So ability power up on Hextech Rocketbelt. This is really big. 100 extra HP. Ability power up by 10. Supersonic damage, 175 to 250 to 125. That is a lot of damage missing. Upgraded arrow power. Okay, wow. So they're hitting all of the actives, and I feel like this is almost punishing players for being good, but it's helping out players that don't actually utilize the actives, and this feels really bad. Soul Rend damage is really clipped. This will actually probably be the end for Karthus then, to keep building this item, so I think that maybe now it's just Liandry's on Karthus with Demonic Embrace. Trinity Force attack damage 35 to 25. Ability Haste is up by 10. That's obviously that feels bad, but I think it's fine. This is a buff for Ezreal. GoreDrinker. Thirsting Slash, 110% to 100% AD. Thirsting Slash heal, 20% AD plus 12% missing health to 25% AD plus 12% missing health. Heal is now calculated, I can't pronounce that, for each champion hit, meaning there are diminishing returns on hitting multiple champions. This is a huge change for certain champions that are relying on GoreDrinker, obviously, but champions that have built-in healing to their kits, such as Aatrox, such as Olaf, such as maybe even like Alawi and stuff like that, they're not going to be as affected, although I would say that this probably is a nerf to Alawi, for sure. Yeah, for sure this is going to be a nerf to Alawi. StrideBreaker, down by 580, ability haste is up by 10, halting slash damage, 100% AD. I think this is actually fine getting CDR again. This is actually probably a buff overall to StrideBreaker, the champions that are using it. Grievous Wounds. We've noticed that system healing sources have been seamed on the strong side, pulling a systematic anti-healing lever. 2 seconds to 3 seconds, this is really big. There are a lot of champions that, for instance, utilize the 2.5 second healing, and so sometimes Grievous Wounds actually falls off, and they do get a little bit of healing and whatnot there. Obviously, Oblivion Orb is a good item to pick up now for mages at 800 gold for anti-healing if they feel compelled to end up getting it. Executioner's Calling should still be built. Stay away from Morello. Don't buy Morello. Don't do it. New season, nothing's changed there, I swear. Okay, Liandry's sales have been tough, but not bad, not bad. And then we got a little bit of changes in game chat shop update. Not really bad. Summoner's Rift Rank Season 2021 start. Korea is going to start at 4 a.m. on the 8th. I'm going to be doing a 24-hour stream there. And so that'll be very exciting to do. Grandmaster and Challenger unlocks. Make the race to the first Grandmaster Challenger more exciting. We're changing the unlock process. Challenger and Grandmaster is still limited to top couple hundred, but players must also have at least 200 LP in Master to reach Grandmaster. Only 500 in Grandmaster to reach Challenger. Grandmaster and Challenger are no longer locked at the start of the season. Okay, so ARAM changes, doesn't really matter, and that is it for the patch. And once again, this is going to be the last one here on this channel. The patch 11.1 notes or tier list will be up on Patreon within a day or two, and so you guys can make sure to check that out there. Now we're going to jump into the skins, because this is the most important part. So we got Warden Quinn, and honestly, the skin does look really cool. I'm getting pretty Azorius vibes. This skin does look legitimately really, really cool. It feels like you're playing some Divine Protoss unit or something, some like Protoss Marine, or I don't even know what's going on here. Looks like this guy in the back is a little bit upset. Maybe we're gonna find out who this is later down the line, but it's fine. Yeah, who fed Thor? Oh man, looks like Snorlax has had a little bit too much to eat here. I have no idea what's going on here. The skin, as long as the aesthetics for it in game are really, really, really cool, the skin's probably going to be cool to pick up, because I think that all the Warden skins generally are pretty good. So it's whatever. Okay, so it's Zinj out. Yeah, I mean, this skin just says Sinner. So I mean, if you want to be a Sinner, then you can definitely pick this this skin. Kled skin, not really doing it for me. It just kind of looks a little bit cartoony. This art looks like something out of Magic the Gathering, which is pretty interesting. It looks like some goblin. I don't know how to really better describe that. That looks like Fizz for some reason, but maybe it's not. And Callista. Obviously, Callista skins are always interesting. Callista does have some pretty sick skins. I think that the Blood Moon Callista, though, is just by far and away the best. Anything that really matches with Thresh is also very good. The skin looks fine, but I don't think it's something that I would necessarily pick. This doesn't really look like a final boss. This looks like a mini boss inside of a level that you'd end up killing, and don't like skins like that. Okay, wow, yeah. The Quinn skin looks really, really, really cool. This looks really cool. I really like the yellow one. It's giving like Hornet or like Wasp vibes. I also really like this one. It's giving obviously Phoenix vibes. I think the blue one is also very good. I think all of these chromas are really good. Gragas, okay, the base skin is insane. The base skin looks like a Tauren and a Draenei had a child. And you know, that might not be a mix that everyone was anticipating, but I think it's fine. This one looks really close to Ornn, so maybe they're related here. I'm not totally sure what's going on here. And then this is Gimli from Lord of the Rings. So I think everything's fine there. Xin Zhao. These look really cool. This actually, this one makes me think it's like a skinny Arthas. This is actually a really cool Xin Zhao skin. Okay, so the splash looked really bad. I think the base skin, not really super good. It looks like some mecha, like Nightmare meets Ross type thing. I don't know. But I actually think the chromas are insane. I really like this pink chroma. It's giving me some like mummy type vibes. The green chroma even is pretty cool as well. The blue one does look like something undead. I'm not totally sure. But I mean, this one right here is really sick. This one's super sick. I really like this one. And then Kled Marauder skins, yeah, it really does just reinforce the goblin thing. So it looks like some goblin thing from World of Warcraft. That's it for the patch notes. A little bit longer than I anticipated, coming in at 21 minutes, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and good luck in Season 11.